Emphasis on amazing. I swear to God, if the message you take away from this video is that I hate this game, amazing game. Still doomed to fail. That game is Granblue Fantasy Versus. As I said the title of the game, did you feel the urge to close the video? It's a game you're not interested in, so why would you care? This thought just crossed the mind of a lot of you guys for sure. Why did that happen? It's a fighting game. I know most of you watching this video like fighting games, otherwise, why would you be here? It's Arc System Works, one of our favorite developers, and I see it on Twitter all the time. Arc says you make a Naruto game, Arc says you make a My Hero game. But you do know there are other Arc System Works games out there, right? Guilty Gear, BlazBlue. So why aren't these nearly as popular as Dragon Ball FighterZ? Because the franchise matters a lot. So if you don't know what Granblue Fantasy is, then you don't care. Should it be this way? Maybe not. Maybe we should care about the quality of the game before caring about which characters are in it. That's logical, right? But screw logic, I want to be Sasuke! Unfortunately, that's how it works most of the time. Now, some of you are excited for this game, and that's cool, but this game's kinda dead already. Or maybe I shouldn't say that, but I really don't have high hopes. From the beta and the trailers, this is my jam. It will be very surprising to me if I end up not liking this game, because so far, I like everything about it. So what's the problem? Why will it fail? Granblue Fantasy is huge. It's $1 billion franchise, I'm not kidding. The mobile game alone surpassed $500 million in 2018. But that's in Japan. Worldwide, not a lot of people know it or even play the mobile game. Heck, I had no idea what Granblue Fantasy was until this game got announced. And there's no easy way to get into this franchise. The app is very Japanese, it's a gacha game. The anime is terrible, it's really not a great way to fall in love with Granblue Fantasy, though Season 2 does seem a little bit better. So you're already fighting an uphill battle trying to win over new fans. And now I think recently they've dealt their own finishing blow. Over this past weekend they've announced the final 2 characters coming to this game, bringing the total roster to 11 characters at launch. And they already have a season pass planned for 5 more characters. 30% of the roster is now locked behind the season pass. Yeah. Characters sell games. This is something that is tried and true. It doesn't matter how good your fighting game is, it doesn't matter what game modes you add, it doesn't matter if the netcode is good. I'm sorry, it hurts me to say this, but that's just how it is. If you don't have characters, your game doesn't sell. And it's been this way for ages now. There have been fighting games in the past that launched with small rosters, but one of 2 things happened. 1, the game didn't sell, or 2, the game came from an already established franchise. And you could argue that Granblue Fantasy is an established franchise, to which I'd say yeah, if you live in Japan. And Granblue Fantasy, of all things, is known for its characters. Characters are the main appeal of this franchise. That's why people spend thousands of yen in Japan. It's to get a new waifu on the mobile game. And that franchise's debut in fighting games only has 11 characters. How? They've clearly placed their bets elsewhere. This game brings a robust single-player experience that I'm personally very curious about. It's got a full-on RPG system for its story mode, with character customization, boss battles. Definitely not your typical fighting game story mode, and I like that. We'll see if it's good, but I'm excited. And that's one of the big bets that Granblue Fantasy Versus is making. It's this type of content for more casual fans. They're looking to bring people from the mobile game into the fighting game, and of course, bring fighting game fans into Granblue Fantasy. That's why if you buy any version of the game, you get items for their mobile game. That's not an accident. You can see the attention they're paying to more casual fans, not only in the game modes they've introduced, not only in the RPG mechanics of story mode, but even in the fighting system itself, giving people the option to execute special moves with a single button. It's definitely catering to casuals, and that's not a bad thing. But you know how you really cater to casuals? You add more characters to your fighting game. Characters and stages. That's what people care about. Now, whether this game fails or not, it's a matter of perspective. The game's already being picked up by the fighting game community, or at least it was before we saw some bullshit.
Lazy, still my heart is lazy. If the word kill me, I don't need a new word under you.
Guilty Gear kinda took over the FGC talk, but still, we see tournaments being planned already, and a lot of players looking to dive deep into this game. In a way, you could consider that a good sign of success. And if we were measuring success by the usual Arc System Works metrics, yeah, it could do well. Maybe it could even do better than a BlazBlue or a Guilty Gear. Personally, I don't think it will, but it's not unreasonable to think that. The problem is, we're not using Arc System Works metrics, we're using Cygames metrics. Cygames is publishing Granblue Fantasy Versus. They are the ones who own the Granblue Fantasy IP. This multi-billion-dollar company one day was sitting on its pile of money and said, let's break into console games. We're gonna make an RPG and a fighting game. And they started developing Granblue Fantasy Relink and Versus. Who were the developers they hired for these projects? Platinum Games and Arc System Works. The best of the best. They're sparing no expense when it comes to entering the console games market. So with that in mind, how many copies of Granblue Fantasy Versus do you think need to sell for Cygames to consider it a success? Let me help you with the numbers. Fighting games are already a niche genre. Very few break into the mainstream. Anime fighting games are an even smaller niche. And for companies like Arc System Works, that's okay. Their titles are developed on a budget that allows them to sell a couple 100,000 copies and do okay. It's hard to find concrete sales figures for Guilty Gear, but Revelator is estimated to have sold around 100,000 copies. Let's be generous and double that number. Would 200,000 copies be enough for Cygames to consider this game a success? Or would you say they're expecting something along the lines of Dragon Ball FighterZ, which has already surpassed 4 million copies? Here's the thing. Granblue Fantasy is not Dragon Ball. And for you, that might be obvious, but if you live in Japan, you'll find that Granblue is almost as popular as Dragon Ball. So you don't expect it to sell 4 million copies, but you don't expect it to sell much less than that. Problem is, if we change this graphic from Japan only to worldwide, Granblue has pretty much flatlined. This game is already fighting an uphill battle. It's trying to convince players to give the universe of Granblue Fantasy a shot, so it really cannot afford to cut any corners. But unfortunately, they cut one of the biggest corners they could cut in a fighting game, and that's the roster size. But whatever, the anime fighting game community will have a quality game, they'll have their tournaments, their competitive scene, so this game not selling millions of copies isn't a problem, right? Wrong. What could potentially happen to Granblue Fantasy Versus is something similar, but somewhat worse than what happened to BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle. This is a game that I love to play, and we actually have a very nice active community over on the Discord server. By the way, if you guys want to join Discord, the BlazBlue chat is now totally free. Everyone is playing with each other, premium bushes or not. If you're looking for a BB Tag community, I'm biased, but I think this is the best one. Anyway, BB Tag sold okay by Arc System standards. They've kept supporting the game over time with patches and DLC characters, and there's a big patch coming out next month. All is fine on that end, except it's not a game that's popular enough to simply play online. You can't just launch this game and start playing at any time. If you queue up for ranked, you could spend hours and hours waiting for a match. There are online lobbies, rooms where you can play other people, but personally, I like playing ranked. Not only does it give me the goal of climbing the ladder, matchmaking also tries to feed me players of a similar skill level. Besides, I don't know who told Arc System Works that this lobby system was great, because they keep putting it in every game they launch, and it's one of the worst lobbies I can think of. And if that's the way for me to play online, then you just never know what you're gonna get. You don't have a matchmaking system trying to feed you players of a similar skill level, you're just playing whoever's there. So what ends up happening, not only with BlazBlue, but with a lot of niche titles like this, is that people organize themselves in communities, like the one we have on Discord, and then they just play together. That's definitely fun, but I can't help but feel that this game has more to offer, and I can't experience its full potential simply because it's not popular enough.
なんだ、ずいぶん荒っぽい戦い方だな。
You, Gordo, win!
The same could happen with Granblue Fantasy Versus, with the added bonus of the game not getting enough post-launch support. They've already promised 5 characters in the Season Pass, so at the very least they'll release those characters, but if the game doesn't sell well, that's it. The game will be completely dropped, and that's my biggest fear when it comes to Granblue Fantasy Versus. Cygames needs this game to sell a lot to consider it a success, and if it doesn't, why would they support it post-launch? Now granted, Cygames knows a thing or two about supporting games post-launch, they're still updating the mobile game, but that's their cash cow. That can definitely be considered a success. But Versus, for as promising of a game as it looks to be, I'm just not that optimistic. I'm excited, and I'll play it, and this video isn't meant to bash the game. If anything, it's meant to raise awareness that it exists. A lot of their latest marketing has been focused on Japan only, almost as if they know that that's their biggest market, which also means the netcode will be delay-based, but that's a whole other topic. So here I am, letting you know that there's an amazing game coming out in February next year, but also saying beware, because I don't know for how long it's gonna live for. And this video is also meant to make you ask yourself, what do you value in a fighting game? Maybe we value the franchise it's based on too much. Maybe we value which characters we can play as a bit too much. Maybe we focus on the wrong things. I don't have an answer. It's just something to think about. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to join our Discord. It's free. and let's play some BlazBlue. My name is Globku, and I'll see you guys next time. Boy.